And there it is, guys. Inter finally signed a player. Way! Here's, of course, the breaking news of Nicola Zalewski signed by Inter on loan with an option to buy from Roma. It looked like originally he was on his way to Marseille, but Inter swooped in, used Piotr Zielinski, his Polish compatriot, to sweet talk him, renew his contract, and he is going to be a new Inter player. So today we're going to do a scout report to talk about what he's good at, what he's bad at, how he's going to fit in at Inter, and then make our verdict on this move. And of course, I want to know your thoughts on it. So please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. So first of all, who is he? Nicola Zalewski is a 23-year-old Polish international, born on January 23rd, 2002 in Tivoli, Italy, in the Lazio region. And despite being born in Italy, Zalewski decided to represent the Polish national team all throughout his youth academies and for the adult national team. At the international level now, he has already 27 caps and 3 goals. Looking back towards his history, he joined the youth academy at Roma at the age of 9, progressing through the ranks as an attacking midfielder before transitioning to more of a winger/wingback. Even from early on, his technical skills and attacking mindset were evident, making him one of the most exciting prospects in the Roma Youth Academy. His senior debut came in May 2021 under Jose Mourinho in a match against Crotone. Mourinho realized Zalewski's potential and repurposed him as a wingback because at the time Roma were playing primarily a 3 at the back formation, and Mourinho wanted to use his dribbling, speed and attacking capabilities in that system. And a lot of the times he was trusting this young Zalewski from the youth team ahead of more experienced players like Spinazzola and Rick Karsdorp. And his feisty and energetic character definitely endeared him to Mourinho and the Roma fans very, very quickly. And then he also ended up being an important part to the Conference League win for Roma. And of course, us Interisti as Mourinho fans, Mourinho, of course, is generally an all-time great. The Mourinho cosign is always a good signal, right? Well, Interisti might remember Mourinho also debuted, co-signed a very young Davide Santon. And of course, we know Santon's career was mostly average, probably peaked when Mourinho made him debut. And Zalewski's career at the moment is kind of pointing towards a trajectory of a Davide Santon, to be honest, because after that initial good impact early on in his career, it seems like his career is kind of stagnated, or you could even say is regressed recently. And I was a fan of the guy a few years ago. Here's a tweet of mine from 2022 where I'm asking a Roma fan on Twitter, how much would Roma sell Zalewski for? And, you can see his reply. He was not keen on selling the boy. And why was I so keen? I mean, look at these Y-Scout stats from that time in 2002 to 23 season. He was ranking amongst the best wing backs in Europe in terms of ball carrying, dribbling, and accelerations, which is, at Inter, we always want to have some players like that. And at that time, he was a really exciting talent. He was showing a lot of energy, hard work whenever I watched him. But since then, I mean, it's not really his fault as well, but Roma have been a bit of a mess since winning that Conference League under Mourinho. The uncertainty of different coaches, different formations, definitely doesn't help a young player in his development, and it definitely hasn't helped Zalewski. And with each new coach, he's been playing less and less. Every season, he's playing less football than the previous season. And he's also a local boy, Romanista, grew up as a Romanista. And we know when things aren't going well, especially at Roma, it's actually these guys that end up getting more of the stick. And recently, at times, he's even been booed and whistled at the Olimpico Stadium. That's always very helpful for a young player, isn't it? Let's say he's definitely a player that's looking for a redemption and he's looking for a fresh start. And maybe Inter is the place to do it. Now let's get into the scout report. First of all, position. Where does he play and where will he fit at Inter? As you can see from the Transfermarkt stats, this boy can play everywhere. He is so versatile. Anywhere on the left? Yep. Anywhere on the right? Yes, sir. And even in the middle sometimes, it seems like he can do it all. But primarily, he is a left wing back. And the heat map will clearly show you that he prefers that left-hand side. And sometimes you can also go on that right-hand side, but mainly on the left. At Inter, he definitely will be able to cover both sides, which is really handy to have. So he can be the Dumfries and Darmian backup, but I think he's most likely going to be the Di Marco/Augusto alternative. That's because of the fact that Inter have let recently Thomas Palacios out on loan, Adrian Buchanan out on loan, both guys that were mainly playing on the left-hand side. Well, Palacios wasn't playing. And we know Carlos Augusto probably is actually better as a left centre back than a wing back. So that points to more of a gap being created in that left wing back position. So let's talk about his strengths. I mean, some of them are pretty obvious, which is why I was excited about him a few years back. His ball carrying ability, pace and dribbling are his standout attributes. He's fun to watch. He likes to go 1v1 against players, but the final product is definitely leaves a lot to be desired at the moment. I mean, when you look at it face value, his total stats for Roma over the last 4 years, the numbers are very poor. 123 appearances with only 2 goals and 9 assists for a player that plays even sometimes in more attacking positions than wing back as well. One thing to note though, he does perform better for his national team, Poland, which is, reminds us of early Perisic, and I know some people have made the comparison to Perisic for Zalewski, but his return for Poland is much better. 3 goals, 4 assists in 27 appearances, much more respectable return, and Inter fans will definitely hope that he can replicate his Poland performances much more than his recent Roma performances. On his best days, he has the ability to create goals out of nothing with his pace and directness, like the crucial game-winning goal he scored against Turkey, where he picks up the ball 30-40 yards from goal, cuts in, gets past a couple of players, and then slots it in past the goalkeeper. Ice, cool, great goal. I mean, for Inter, that would be an amazing asset to have. If he's left 1v1 against a player, he's likely to try and take on the player. He's comfortable going either side, left or right, although, of course, he tends to cut in on his stronger right foot. Last season, he averaged 3.35 dribbles per 90, with 1.49 of them successful, which puts him in the top 5% amongst all fullbacks in the top 5 European leagues. Not too shabby. When he goes on the outside, he does something that I like to see a fullback doing. When he goes on the outside, he's able to get that half a yard in just to get the crossing. Doesn't necessarily have to beat the guy, completely. He can just get that little bit of space to get the cross in. Although, as you can see from his assist numbers, the crossing isn't always up to par. But in general, we know this is something that we need at Inter. This is something that we lacked, and this is why we signed Tajon Buchanan, a while back, but hasn't quite worked out. But the profile remains similar. As you can see from his data MB map and his FB ref stats, a fantastic ball carrier who manages to create chances and opportunities from his dribbling or win lots of fouls. If you want an example of this, look at his massive moment for Poland against Scotland in the Nations League recently, where he wins a penalty at a time with his pace and directness again, and then he even steps up to take it and score it. Not the greatest penalty, but we know at Inter, it's always nice to have more players willing and able to take good penalties. And it shows the boy has cojones. And it shows a certain level of ball striking ability. I mean, we talked about his stats. They definitely don't show it, but I think there's definitely a potential there for a player, a wing back, that could be adding 5-6 goals at least every season with his ability, especially in a system like Inter's. At Roma at times, he was also known to take set pieces if key players were missing, so that also shows a good technical base to him. But in open play, definitely his crossing and final product needs a lot of work. For example, here against Portugal, which was a good performance from him in general, he's got many options in the middle of the box like he would have at Inter, but he manages not to find any of those options. So again, the potential is there, the decision making and final product is what's missing. Now let's look at some weaknesses. I'm not gonna lie, there is a fair few here. First of all, defensively, we know that this guy was more of an attacking player in his youth, and he's converted into a more defensive role recently, so he's not the greatest defensively. His stats, when you bring them up, he doesn't really stand out or even look bad in most of them, but when you see a couple of those, the ones that look really bad are the ones that are percentages of dribblers tackled and challenges lost per 90, which is a bit of a red flag because it shows his dueling and tackling 1v1 is not very good. In general, when I watched him defensively, he's okay, but my worries are more around his concentration and decision making. Inter fans, we will remember a very recent mistake of his that led to us scoring the winning goal against Roma this season. He turns the ball way too easily in this situation. It comes from a Roma corner, loses balance, doesn't shield the ball properly from Fratesi, who ends up getting the ball from him into counter-attack and score from this. This is very poor decision-making, poor shielding, not a good sign. Another example of this is another one from this season against Hellas Verona, where he tries to switch the play under no pressure, and he ends up gifting the ball straight to the Hellas Verona striker, who takes the gift and scores from it. And he tends to make mistakes like these here and there. I'm not saying that he's always making these, but I've seen him sometimes being prone to these types of mistakes. We know at Inter, Inzaghi has to trust you 100% defensively before he puts you into the team. Ask Tajon Buchanan. And going back to what we discussed before, some of this could be due to what we discussed in terms of the Roma shirt, him being a Roma fan, the weight of the shirt, the pressure, weighing on him too much, maybe. Whereas on the other hand, for Poland, I don't see him making as many mistakes like this. He seems to be more concentrated, more switched on for Poland, a lot less error prone defensively. Another weakness, of course, he's 5'7" or 175 centimeters tall. So yeah, he's not the greatest in the air. And not just because of his height, but just in terms of his positioning, the way he takes up the position and the way he challenges for aerial duels is not very good. And actually, I was surprised about his passing statistics not being very convincing either, because I think of him as quite a technically sound player. But when you look at his stats, he ranks low in all the aspects outside of his short pass completion, which is quite worrying. Although you could say, Roma are not the most possession-heavy team in Serie A. But it is a little bit of a red flag, because in a system like Inzaghi's, where it's key to keep the ball moving, recycle possession, move positionally, from what I've seen, I think he may struggle to adapt to that, because he strikes me more as a head down and run type of player. Although, as I said, technically he's very sound, and if he does pick his head up and look for his options, he does have the ability to pick out passes. One final aspect is the mental side. Now, of course, we never know these players on a personal basis. I've, only done a little bit of research on Zalewski, so I don't know too much. But even before I researched him, the last couple of days, I know that Roma fans, I've seen news in the media about Zalewski being a bit of a party boy, like, the nightclubs of Rome. So hopefully he's not too tempted by the nightlife of Milan, especially at least the first 6 months. Hopefully he can just get his head down. And he's known to be a bit of a feisty, stubborn character, which is not a bad thing, actually. That's probably a positive. So what's the final verdict? Overall, it might sound like I'm not too keen on the player, or there's too many weaknesses for this to work out, but actually the deal that Inter have managed to seal with Roma is a win-win for Inter and Zalewski, not quite so much for Roma. So I'm happy about this. A 600k rumored loan fee with a 6 to 7 million redemption fee. It's cheap. This player a couple of years ago probably could have cost you double, if not triple, when he was first breaking out the scene. And we know these days, even if you want an unknown player from Argentina, that will cost you about 7 million euros. Even though he's 23, he's already got more than 100 appearances in Serie A, which in theory should mean that he's more tactically and physically ready for Serie A than Tejon Buchanan was. So that means he should be more ready for Inzaghi to play him straight away. A fresh start, away from the hometown pressures, under the guiding arm of a great coach like Inzaghi, with his compatriot Zielinski. This might do him some good, and the potential that I saw a few years back, maybe it can be a revive, especially under a coach like Inzaghi, who likes to maximize his wing-backs in this system that relies a lot on the wing-backs. This could finally help Zalewski finally reach his true potential. And we all know we have needed a profile like Zalewski's since Perisic has left the club. And if he doesn't do well for us, well, you can send him straight back to Rome, first train back, no sleep lost. Well, that's it from me, guys. That was my scout report on Zalewski. Now I need your thoughts on this deal. Do you think he is the modern wing back that we need and that will thrive in Inzaghi's system, or do you think he will be forgotten after 6 months, after this loan stint? We'll never speak of Zalewski again. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on everything. Is there something I missed? Is there something you would like to add to this scout report? Please make sure you drop it down below. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Forza Zalewski, Forza Inter.